Welcome to Sandbox FOMO5 from Bureau Happold. Each week we pick short snippets from our most recent episode for your listening pleasure. These quick listens could be valuable insights, thought-provoking elements, or even practical advice that will no doubt enrich your life and knowledge. Sandbox brings together curious individuals interested in a specific topic to discuss, dissect, and interrogate it. The style is conversational, with experts from Bureau Happold and invited external guests who will add another angle to the narrative. Listeners are encouraged to gather around our podcast so that we can explore the latest advances in various fields and expand our collective horizons. Sometimes we'll tackle a subject head-on, sometimes a sideways view, but always with curiosity, expertise, and who knows, maybe even a dash of humour. So let's talk about heritage and the broader things around that, like catalysing, if that is the word, serving as a catalyst for an area, both in terms of the societal and the economic backgrounds. So much of a city's personality is in its architecture. How can we keep existing buildings relevant without changing their character? Anna, you were talking there about finding a purpose for these buildings, keeping these buildings relevant. I think I'll go first to Gillian here, because obviously your background in conservation, I imagine this is probably something of a passionate topic for you.
Maybe we do have to change their character. I also prefer the word refurbishment, so I'm with Darren on that. If you think about the discussion about empty and emptying department stores, I'm not talking about Oxford Street, I'm talking about, the one or two in a medium-sized town that falls by the wayside, and the different things that have happened to them. And so it goes. You just shake up an envelope, and in the best of cases, some use will be found. And it could be, think about all the cinemas that went to bingo halls, and now they've gone back.
You mentioned cinemas there, and I just wanted to talk to Darren about the Hyde Park Picture House, because that's quite an exciting refurb, retrofit, whatever we want to call it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When Gillian was saying that then about cinemas, my mind was going there, so I'm glad you did as well. The Hyde Park Picture House in Leeds, it's a project we finished recently. It's one that I think everyone that was involved with it's really proud of. That idea of there being so many of these cinemas that then it did become a bingo hall for a very short period of time. It was one of 70, I think, might be less actually, maybe one of 40 cinemas at the time in Leeds, sort of turn of the century, early 1900s. A building that had stood really at the centre of the community. I was a student in Leeds and I used to go, it's still just as popular as ever. And it was a building that, was sort of loved, but it was struggling. It has one screen, old services, not really the space to serve food and drink and tickets. It wants to be a centre of the community and it sort of struggled without having the space to do that and be a place where people can go and meet people and have a brew and maybe catch a film. And so they'd always wanted to have a scheme that addressed a lot of that. It would also get equitable access across all the different floors of the building so that people who were less mobile could kind of get into all the areas. And so we've just finished a really successful project where we've added an extension, we've added another screen in the basement, we've opened up the entrance area, we've created all this breakout space. And it's been just so rewarding, really, to be able to kind of help out and do that. And sort of, it's one of those jobs that makes you realise that when you do sort of work in the built environment, you're not, ones and zeros and black and white stuff. It's real sort of flesh and blood stuff that affects people's lives. It's where people live. And so getting the chance to do things like that, where you help give people a place really to sort of get on living their lives, it's really rewarding. So that's definitely been a recent highlight.
Fantastic. And Anna, can you tell us a little bit about Warmington House down at Tottenham Hotspur, please? That's a great story as well.
I love that building because it's one of the best kept examples of Georgian architecture in London, but it was in such a bad state. It was in the Heritage at Risk Register from Historic England, so it really needed a new use. It had been mothballed. No one knew what to do with it. But thankfully, as part of the big regeneration of the area in Tottenham, conducted by the club, Tottenham Hotspurs, to create a new stadium, there was this idea to integrate Warmington House in the new club museum, again, giving to it a completely new use, to what it was before. We had to extend the building and create new space around it. But for those of you that don't know it, it's easy to Google and see the before and after photos and even how it still lives and breathes, even with the building around it. In my view, it was a very successful way of preserving that fabric, preserving the significance of the building and giving it a new use. And then we as engineers and architects, we found a way to make it technically work. But in the end of the day, the community can now go there, visit, be transported in time every time they go there. And we didn't have to knock it down. It's amazing.
I went to Boston by train, which is a sensible way to go. It's a very, very splendid town in terms of its historic fabric. Its high street is kind of being helped with from the Department of Levelling Up. And yet, the station, which was sort of more obvious when we were leaving because we were walking towards it, was a very, very pretty regional station. It's just a very sweet, round-arched, sort of golden building. And it's being put back together again. I don't know how bad state it was in. But then part of it is also going to be for community use. But, it's a sign of optimism. It wasn't quite finished when we were there in the summer. And I thought it was a nice place to start, a nice place to actually say, come on, this town, it's got plans.
Yeah.
And somehow or other, I think that's what some of what we're talking about in the heritage sense can signal.
That is so important, Gillian, because what we've seen time and time again is that a good refurbishment acting as a hook can revitalize a complete area. We've seen that in London with Battersea as well, or in an area that we're working on that is Bayswater, with the Whiteley as one of the catalysts for bringing investment and changing the complete area. So a good retrofit refurbishment can really bring that energy and investment to change the turn of an area.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick dip into our last episode of Sandbox. Don't forget to subscribe to follow the show. You'll find Sandbox in all the usual places, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Bureau Happold's YouTube channel, and on the Bureau Happold website. What's more, if you want to join the conversation on X, known as Twitter to its old friends, use the hashtag BHSandbox. We'd love to hear from you on any of the topics discussed.